Welcome to my build of the Balmar printing company, built from the ITLA Intro Kit. This is a great little kit with laser cut MDF, plywood, and laser board. You can do a lot with this kit. I gave myself an extra challenge of deciding to color it using Copic Markers. I did some tests and liked the results, but I realized I didn't have enough colors. Fortunately, Michael's was having a sale that week, so I went and picked up some more that I thought would be useful. I made a color palette and was confident I had all the colors I needed. I'd made a couple of tests with some of the punch-out pieces and was happy with the results. So I sat down and got started. First I started coloring the stonework at the bottom of the walls. And then I went in and picked out some individual stones using alternate colors. Once I was done with that, I went over all of the stonework again with one shade to blend it all together. Then I started working on the top of the masonry, and I liked the way that was coming out. I then went and did the bricks. I knew I was going to have to darken them some, but I was encouraged with the results. Using the markers meant I didn't have to do any masking, but I was going to have to do the stucco next, and that I couldn't do with a marker. So I had to get out the pastels. Fortunately, I had a shade that was pretty close to what our building had been. Yes, I used to work at Balmar Printing. I was happy with the way it was coming out. I did the door frames next, but that plywood was going to be a problem. The Copic Markers just didn't work on it. The wood grain would show through and I couldn't get the right colors. So I had to paint the doors. I painted one of them green and one of them brown. I was able to use the Copic marker on the freight door. I was happy about that. Next up, I put in the doors and the windows. And now the Copic markers could shine doing stonework that they do so well. I did the headers over the windows and the sills that go under the windows, and they came out great, looking just like granite. I got all of the stonework in place and was happy with how it looked. Next up, I decided I wanted a loading dock in my building, so I built one out of some leftover pieces of scribe siding, again using the Copic markers to color them. After gluing on the sides and the back and a floor, I had a tissue door laying around, so I rusted it up and glued it in place. Next, I assembled the building. It goes together very easily with the tab and slot, and it's very easy to make it square. Once I had two L's glued together, I attached them to each other and had a square building. Then I started the first round of weathering using artist pastels. Now I had to deal with the plywood, and I knew those corner pieces weren't going to look right. So I got out some plastic angle that I had and colored it with the marker, glued it in place. I then used the marker on some of the roof details. I put together the chimney and started coloring the roof caps. I was going to miter them in place, so I used my slicer and cut a 45-degree miter for them. Next, I started applying some window treatment, putting in some shades and some Venetian blinds. The next thing I started on was the roof hatch, and again, I love the way the Copic marker can make pieces look like rusted metal. And I got to the front steps, which came out looking excellent in my opinion. They came out looking just like granite. When I test fit them in place, I was happy with how they looked. I attached some of the detail parts onto the loading dock. Next up, I had made some signs on the computer. I started rusting a few of them, and I cut some of them out in preparation to attach them. I decided I was going to have some crates in my loading dock, so I used some interaction crates. I put together some of the rooftop details and used my sander to smooth them out. Again, I used the Copic marker for some of the ductwork. I was able to get a nice streaking rust on it. Then I put together my bracket for the top of one of the vents. I used the marker to create rust on one of the rooftop vents. And I put my boxes in the loading dock. Then I started my second round using artist pigments. I was able to weather all of the details and get a lot of the streaking going on the building. Next up was a base for the building to sit on. I used AK concrete. After I traced the building onto it, I used an X-Acto knife to cut some squares in the concrete. Then I used a stain to make the lines come out. I put the building in place to see where I needed to put some pigments. Then I started applying a little bit of vegetation in some of the cracks that I put in it. I had ground up some oak leaves. They were going to be part of my weathering on this building. I started applying the leaves and the weeds around the building. I also made some downspouts to come from the roof. After making little scuppers to attach them to, I glued them onto the building. Then I put some puddles on the roof, especially around the downspouts. At this point I was pretty much done. I was happy with how it came out. I had set myself a challenge to see how much of the structure I could do using Copic markers. And I think I got pretty close to my goal. Thank you for watching.